What if I told you that the US government isn't just hiding proof of UFOs? They once tried to capture beings who had already escaped them. That one summer night, in the middle of rural America, ordinary people came face to face not with strange lights in the sky, but with actual fugitives from another world. This isn't a conspiracy theory I read in some dusty forum. It's a story that came from witnesses who swore their lives changed forever, and the more you hear, the harder it will be to look away. The strangest part? The details they gave matched declassified documents years later, almost word for word. It started in 1978 in the thick woods of northern Missouri, when a young farmhand named Michael Tarrant was finishing his late shift. He'd worked these fields since he was 12, knew every sound the night could make. The crickets, the whippoorwills, the far-off hum of a tractor left too long and idle. But on this night, something new cut through the silence. A sharp, vibrating hum that seemed to come from the sky itself, like a swarm of bees amplified 1,000 times. At first, he thought it was some new military jet, since Whiteman Air Force Base wasn't too far. Then the cows began panicking, lowing in terror, pressing against the fences like they wanted to break free. Michael ran out to the field and looked up. That's when he saw it. A massive triangular craft, matte black against the stars, hovering so low the corn stalks bent beneath its invisible pressure. No lights, no windows, nothing to mark it as human technology, just a hulking shadow that seemed to drink in the moonlight. And then, impossibly, it landed. No fiery thrusters, no roaring engines, just a slow descent until it pressed against the earth with a silent thud. Michael swore his heart stopped beating as a panel on its underside slid open, and three figures leapt out into the field. They weren't like the little green men comic books love to joke about. These were tall, wiry, with skin so pale it almost glowed. Their eyes were huge, black, reflecting starlight like mirrors. They looked around frantically, like prey that had just slipped out of a hunter's grasp. One of them turned, locking its gaze directly on Michael. For a second, he couldn't move. Then, without speaking, the thought slammed into his mind like a voice he couldn't shut out. Hide us. Michael fell backward, clutching his head. The beings rushed toward the tree line, vanishing into the woods. Before he could process what happened, a second rumble split the air. This time it was unmistakable. Military helicopters, thundering and low, searchlights sweeping across the fields. Soldiers in dark fatigues rappelled down within seconds, weapons drawn. Michael lay flat, praying they wouldn't see him, but one spotlight caught his barn and froze there. Through the glare, he could see more trucks arriving, men barking orders, the whole place swarming like a kicked anthill. And then he heard it. One soldier shouting, "They can't have gone far. Find them before they reach the river." That's when Michael understood. Whatever had just crawled out of that craft, it wasn't supposed to. These weren't invaders. They were escapees. Over the next few nights, strange things unfolded across the county. Families reported missing pets, but not in the bloody, violent way coyotes left behind. Just gone, cages unlatched, collars left behind. A teenager driving home from a late shift at the diner swore he saw three stick-thin shadows, crouched by the roadside, watching cars go by. An elderly couple claimed someone broke into their storm shelter, but instead of stealing food, the intruders had taken old blankets and jars of water. Each time locals reported it, military men arrived first, confiscating notes, warning residents to keep quiet. Michael, terrified, said nothing. But he couldn't forget the voice in his head. Hide us. Days passed before he saw them again. It was near dusk when he went out to repair a broken fence post. The forest edge loomed quiet and dark, but then, like shadows peeling off the trees, the three figures emerged. He froze, hammer in hand. One of them stepped forward and tilted its head. Michael swore it looked more desperate than dangerous. Then, again, the voice in his mind. They will not stop until we are gone. His pulse spiked, but he managed to whisper, "Why me?" The answer hit him with the force of a nightmare. Because you saw us land, and you did not betray us. Suddenly, the ground shook with the sound of distant engines. Searchlights once again pierced the horizon. This time, Michael had seconds to choose: turn them in and save himself, or hide beings from another world in his very own barn, knowing soldiers were closing in. And this is where things spiraled far beyond what anyone in America was ready to believe. Michael's decision happened in less than a heartbeat. He dropped his hammer, waved frantically at the figures, and whispered, "This way." They moved like shadows, gliding across the grass without a sound, their elongated limbs folding unnaturally as they crouched and slipped into the barn through a side door. Michael slammed it shut and pulled a tarp over the opening, just as headlights from military trucks burned across his field. The rumble of engines grew until the earth itself seemed to shake. Within minutes, soldiers were pouring across his property, rifles at the ready, dogs straining against leashes. A man in a black uniform, no insignia, stepped forward and flashed a blinding light in Michael's face. "You live here?" he barked. Michael nodded, struggling to steady his breathing. "Hear or see anything unusual tonight?" Michael swallowed. The barn behind him was silent, so silent it felt impossible. "Just the usual coyotes," he muttered. The officer's stare lingered for a long, terrible moment. Then he motioned to his men. "Search it." Soldiers fanned out, storming the house, the sheds, the perimeter. Two of them headed for the barn. Michael's throat locked up. He followed them, forcing a casual tone. "Barn's empty. Just tools and hay." The soldier ignored him, yanking the door open. The beam of a flashlight swept through the shadows, catching the dust motes in the air. For a split second, Michael was sure he'd see pale limbs crouched in the corner. But the light revealed only bales of hay, the old tractor, and shelves of tools. The soldier frowned, then slammed the door shut. Clear. Michael nearly collapsed from relief. The soldiers regrouped, but the officer's eye stayed on him. "If you see anything, you call this number." He shoved a card into Michael's hand. No agency name, no personal ID, just a phone number scrawled in red ink. Then they were gone, engines fading into the distance, leaving behind tire ruts and a silence that pressed down heavier than before. Michael stood frozen, clutching the card, until the barn door creaked open. The three beings emerged, their huge eyes reflecting the moonlight. One stepped closer, and again, without sound, the words formed in his head, "You risked yourself for us." "Why?" Michael stammered. I don't even know." The being tilted its head. "Then we will tell you what they will not." Over the next hours, hidden in the barn, Michael learned truths that rewrote everything he thought he knew about UFOs. These beings were not conquerors, not invaders. They were prisoners. Decades ago, they claimed, their craft had been shot down, not by accident but by design. Captured survivors had been held in underground facilities, studied, dissected, forced into experiments. The craft Michael saw land that night wasn't a new arrival. It was an escape. They'd stolen it from one of those facilities and fled, only to be pursued relentlessly. "Why here?" Michael whispered. The answer chilled him. "Because this country built the cages, and this country hunts us still." They described the base. Endless corridors beneath deserts, cages of reinforced glass, scientists who pretended curiosity but wielded cruelty. Most chilling of all, they said not all of their kind had escaped. Many still languished in captivity, screaming silently in minds no one could hear. As dawn crept over the horizon, Michael sat with his head spinning, trying to process. That was when the youngest looking of the three reached out, laying a long, thin hand on his arm. Instantly, Michael's mind exploded with images, flashes of star systems, oceans of violet waves, towers of crystal light. He saw cities not built of steel but of living stone, resonating with music-like energy. He felt emotions too complex to name: sorrow, longing, hope. Then it snapped away, leaving him gasping. "Now you understand," the voice whispered. Michael did understand, but also knew one thing clearly. If the government was hunting them, hiding them here was suicide. And yet, part of him couldn't turn away. He looked at the barn rafters, the worn wood, and whispered, "You can stay until I figure something out." For days, Michael kept their secret. He brought food, water, old blankets. At night, He heard helicopters in the distance, sweeping grid by grid. The card burned in his pocket, its red number a silent threat. And then, on the fourth night, everything fell apart. Michael had gone into town for supplies when he noticed two men in plain suits trailing him, their faces expressionless, their eyes sharp. When he got home, the barn door was ajar. Inside, the beings were gone. Panic clawed through him until he saw scrawled in the dust, faint but deliberate, a single word, river. He ran, heart pounding, down toward the Missouri River's bend, where the forest grew thick and the current roared. And there, on the bank, he found them. The craft was gone, destroyed, they told him, but they had one last chance. Deep beneath the river's surface, they said, was a hidden place, a remnant of their technology. But before they could reach it, searchlights erupted across the water and engines thundered again. The soldiers had caught up, guns raised, dogs barking, orders shouted. And Michael stood between them, the fugitives from another world behind him, the might of his own government closing in from the front. The riverbank erupted in chaos. Floodlights swept across the trees, turning the night into blinding white. Soldiers shouted, dogs barked, and the deafening thump of helicopter blades churned the air. Michael froze, caught in the middle, his boots sinking into the muddy shore. Behind him, the three beings crouched low, their thin limbs trembling but their black eyes calm, almost resigned. In his mind, their voice cut through the noise. We cannot fight them. We can only run. Michael wanted to scream. Run where? There was nowhere left. Soldiers fanned out in formation, rifles aimed. A voice from a megaphone boomed. Step aside, son. This is government business. Walk away and you'll live. Michael's chest heaved. His mind raced with images of their prison, of sterile white corridors, of beings trapped like animals. He saw them dragged back, chained, dissected. He couldn't let it happen, not after what they'd shown him. He stepped forward instead of back. They're not yours, he shouted, voice cracking. The soldiers didn't flinch. A laser sight danced across his chest. In that moment, one of the beings placed its hand on his shoulder. A surge of warmth spread through him, not painful, but overwhelming, as if every nerve in his body had been plugged into a current of living energy. His vision blurred, and suddenly the world slowed. He could see the muzzle flashes before they happened, hear the pull of breath before orders were given. We will share a fraction of what we are, the voice echoed inside him. But you must choose how to use it. Michael staggered, his senses heightened beyond belief. The river glistened like liquid silver, every droplet visible, every motion stretched into eternity. He could sense the soldiers' fear, their determination, even their hesitation. And deeper still, he felt the being's desperation. They'll kill us all, Michael whispered. Not if we reach the water, the tallest replied, though its lips never moved. He nodded once. Then the world snapped back into motion. Bullets tore through the night, splintering trees, sending chunks of earth spraying. Michael dove, tackling the nearest soldier before the man could fire. His body moved faster than it ever had, fueled by something not entirely his own. The aliens darted toward the river, moving with impossible speed, their bodies shimmering as if bending light around them. Soldiers shouted, unleashing a barrage of gunfire. Helicopter spotlights locked onto the fleeing figures. But each time the beams touched them, they seemed to flicker, half vanishing, reappearing yards ahead. Michael stumbled after them, adrenaline burning, while chaos erupted all around. One soldier lunged for him, grabbing his arm. Instantly, Michael's vision flared, and he saw into the man's mind. His wife's face, his daughter's laughter, his hidden fear of failing. Michael recoiled, shoving him away. He hadn't wanted that glimpse, but the being's gift gave it freely, without control. At the water's edge, the fugitives stopped. The youngest raised its hand, and the river itself seemed to answer. The current churned, spiraling into a vortex that revealed something metallic glimmering beneath the surface. Not a ship exactly, but a pod, sleek and luminous, as if carved from liquid light. The soldiers roared forward. Michael turned, arms spread, standing between them and the beings. You don't understand, he shouted. They're not a threat. The officer in black stepped into the floodlight. His face was hard, eyes cold. Move, or you go down with them. Michael shook his head. Then I go down. The officer raised his hand, and rifles clicked. At that instant, the beings pressed their long hands against Michael's back. A flood of energy surged through him, more intense than before. His vision went white, his skin tingled like fire and ice, and the sound of the river roared inside his skull. Then he realized he wasn't standing anymore. He was floating. The soldiers shouted in shock, firing wildly, but the bullets curved midair, veering away from him, splashing harmlessly into the water. His body glowed faintly, as if his veins carried light instead of blood. You are the bridge, the voices thundered in unison. Through you, they cannot harm us. The pod beneath the water rose, parting the river as it ascended. Spray drenched the shore, blinding soldiers, scattering dogs. The beings moved swiftly, guiding the pod with gestures, their eyes burning with focus. Michael's heart pounded. He didn't know if he was saving them or sacrificing himself. As the pod opened with a hiss, the tallest being turned back, locking eyes with him one final time. You have given us freedom. We give you truth. A cascade of images ripped through his mind. Galaxies colliding, civilizations rising and falling, Earth itself seen from 1,000 alien perspectives. He saw the first crash in 1947, not an accident, but a shot fired. He saw meetings in secret chambers where human officials traded silence for power. He saw the future, an Earth standing at a crossroads, watched by countless eyes across the stars. And then it was gone. The beings slipped into the pod, the hatch sealed, and with a blinding pulse of light, it plunged into the river's depths, vanishing without a ripple. The glow left Michael's body. He collapsed to the mud, gasping, trembling, weak. Soldiers surrounded him instantly, rifles aimed, shouting. But for the first time, Michael didn't feel fear. He knew something now, something they would never be able to bury forever. He looked up at the officer, who stared down with fury barely hidden. Where did they go? The man demanded. Michael, blood on his lips, managed a faint smile. Farther than you'll ever reach. The soldiers dragged Michael from the mud, twisting his arms behind his back, snapping cold steel cuffs around his wrists. He didn't fight. The energy the beings had given him was gone, leaving only exhaustion, as if every bone in his body had been hollowed out. Helicopters circled overhead, their lights raking across the river, searching for something already long vanished. The officer in black leaned close, his voice low enough for only Michael to hear. You don't understand what you've done. You think you helped them. You've doomed us all. Michael lifted his head, eyes burning. No, you've doomed yourself. All I did was let the truth slip through your fingers. The officer's jaw tightened, and he gestured. The soldiers shoved Michael into the back of a truck, put over his head, the world reduced to darkness and the steady pounding of his heart. What happened over the next 72 hours was a blur of interrogation rooms, harsh lights, voices demanding answers he didn't have. They asked where the beings went, what technology they carried, what he knew of their plans. Every time he said the same thing. They just wanted to be free. Every time they slammed fists on tables, called him a liar, warned him that freedom wasn't for them. Then, suddenly, the questioning stopped. Michael expected prison, maybe worse, but instead he was dumped on the side of a highway 50 miles from home, his clothes the same, but his pockets empty. The red ink card was gone. His farm, when he returned, was stripped bare. The barn had been gutted, boards torn down, soil overturned like they had scoured it inch by inch. Neighbors whispered but said little. They knew men in suits had been there, and they didn't want to be next. Life pretended to return to normal, but nothing was normal anymore. Nights were the hardest. He still heard the voice in his head, not words exactly but impressions, faint echoes of something vast and far away. Sometimes he woke with his skin tingling, as if that light still flickered in his veins. Years passed, and the world moved on. UFO sightings came and went. The news mocked them, the government denied them. But every so often, a classified document leaked, a blurred photograph surfaced, A testimony slipped out from someone who swore they'd seen beings alive in containment. And every time, Michael remembered the night at the river, the pod rising from the depths, the promise, "You have given us freedom. We give you truth." He never told the full story publicly. Men still came by now and then, sitting in parked cars on the road near his property, making sure he remembered to stay quiet. But in private, with trusted friends, or when the whiskey loosened his tongue, he spoke enough. Enough for people like me to hear. And here's the part that haunts me most. In his final years, Michael swore he sometimes saw them again. Not in flesh and blood, not in barns or fields, but in mirrors, in dreams, in flashes of light at the edge of vision. He said they were checking on him, reminding him he wasn't forgotten. The government had tried to break him, to erase what happened, but the memory was unshakable. And when he died in 2006, in his sleep on that same Missouri farm, his family found something strange tucked into a drawer of his desk. A stone, smooth and translucent, humming faintly when touched, unlike any mineral a geologist could identify. No one knows where it came from. His children swore it hadn't been there before. Some believe it was a keepsake left behind by the fugitives, a promise made good. You are the bridge. Today, his farm lies quiet, the barn rebuilt, the soil healed. But if you stand by the river at night, locals say you can still feel it. The hum, the vibration beneath your feet, faint but steady, like an engine idling far below the surface. As if something sleeps there still, waiting for the moment the world is ready. So when you hear officials laugh about UFOs, when they mock anyone who claims to see lights in the sky, ask yourself this. Were they laughing at the witnesses? Or were they laughing because they know the truth already escaped, and it's only a matter of time before the rest of us see it too? Because Michael's story was never just about a farm boy hiding strangers in a barn. It was about fugitives from another world, and the night one ordinary man chose to defy the most powerful government on Earth. And in that choice, he proved something terrifying and wonderful at once. They are real, they are here, and sometimes they are running for their lives.